Still Solo super chat about Chris Metzen and Ian Hazzikostas.
Yeah, so it said Chris Metzen is taking Ian's job. He'll be stepping down after 10.2. This will be announced at BlizzCon. Patch 10.2 is the last patch of the expansion. That being a rumor from the notorious people who always tell the truth online, 4chan.org. So obviously you take that with a massive, massive, massive grain of salt. But at the same time,
Game director Chris Metzen. He's never been game director.
he doesn't. I wouldn't imagine him ever wanting to be game director or even having the chops for it today, especially because he's not been in that scene for a long, long time. But I could definitely see them giving game director, splitting it up like they did with Overwatch a little bit further and trying to go, okay, well, and then because Ian's been at the helm for a long ass time, I wouldn't be too surprised if he did want to step down. And this isn't like a get rid of Ian or anything. It's literally just he's been there a while. If he's like, I want to go do something else, like all of the people who worked in World of Warcraft before went,
yeah,
can I give this to someone who I trained and then I can go do something interesting, like Tom Chilton was doing, stuff like that.
Morgan Day.
Yeah.
Do they have another associate?
It's Fiesel. Morgan Day and Jeremy Fiesel are the two associate game directors at the moment. So I wouldn't be surprised if they actually just went, okay, well, Ian, you want to leave? Absolutely. You've got decent people there ready to take the wheel, and then Metzen is in the creative consultation position and the whatever I can't remember his actual title or his position, but which we've heard from people that it's more important than people expected. So a lot of people thought that was a PR move. Let's hand Metzen 6 figures and then once, and then we can say
you're getting very close to stealing someone's video here, Matt.
A little bit, but there's public domain anyway. Say stuff online. What are you going to do? I think there's something there about how if he does actually take him a little more that creative direction, then you can see it being visionary and then executors of the will. And I think if you have good executors of a vision, then you've got a really good setup going, where it's like here's the plan, communicate it and disseminate it, and let's go. And I could definitely see that happening. Chris and Holly Longsdale will co-lead WoW, being the full rumor. I mean, that's, again, it's like Metzen taking a bigger role seems a little bit suspect to me, but also, what else is he doing? He could, that's the thing.
Yeah,
everything.
Metzen is not reportedly on Diablo Overwatch.
Yeah, he's Warcraft.
Yeah, so just I guess some context, it's kind of useful to know because Chris had a lot of jobs, and the reason why he left Blizzard Entertainment in 2016 really does seem to be burnout. And I remember you did some podcasts with Scott Johnson that were they were pretty real vulnerable podcasts, because the two of them, I suppose, have enough rapport to facilitate that kind of conversation. And I'd recommend listening to them because it's actually interesting. It's, growing up, family, falling out of faith, finding faith again. Don't know where he is in that. His relationship, breaking up, his new relationship, it was really, it was personal shit. Which it's just not the sort of insight you're going to get anywhere else. And I think Scott was uniquely positioned to provide that kind of safer, place to talk about that. But the thing with Metzen is he was the instrumental creative force behind the establishment of Blizzard's IPs. So he was working, Alex, the embattled, and I think this is a case we're doing a little bit of the old Russell conjugation is okay. Controversial game designer Alex Afrasiabi. I think it's Afrasiabi. Lots of gross misconduct, and then combined with a bit of the old alcoholism. What a great theme for what I'm doing right now.
YouTube, that's not beer. It's okay. It's okay. Yeah. It's okay, Susan. That's just a blue can. Jeez. Anyway, yes.
So that ends up being a controversial thing, because things obviously went very aground with Alex in a way that hurt people. But basically, the reason why Chris wasn't the creative director of World of Warcraft is because he was also working on Diablo 3. And remember, Diablo 3 was being worked on for a very, very long time indeed. He was also working on the StarCraft 2 project. And, you think about the development cycle for StarCraft 2, you think about when Diablo 3 was announced, like, he was juggling a lot of those jobs. And it got to the stage where a lot of his personal life was also in those characters, which he's talked about, so some of his feelings definitely played an instrumental role in Thrall finding family in the Cataclysm. Also, very much, the whole the Heart of the Swarm storyline. Then there comes a time where he's a lot less on World of Warcraft. And I think that's in the post-MOP period, if I remember correctly, where that kind of swells more. But he's also like playing an instrumental role on Project Titan, which then morphs into Overwatch. So he was always doing all of these different things. He was never really laying in the details. And that's why Red Shirt Guy got to, talk about Kurdran Wildhammer, that BlizzCon, and forever then become the Red Shirt Guy who, bested Metzen at his own lore, because Metzen was always doing big things in multiple projects, whereas now, rather than being this kind of like creative, I don't know, to steal something from Linus Tech Tips, Chief Vision Officer. It's just, it's a useful title, right? Metzen was like that big vision for loads of the IPs. Now, though, he's only on the WoW development team. Only the WoW development team.
With an eye to move to other Warcraft projects in the future.
Yeah.
Which was the big thing of, oh my god, movie television shows.
Movie TV.
Was it? Hang on, did I? Sorry, I just remembered thinking about it. Yeah, no, the streamer dementia is a real thing. It was me and Jared talking on the return to the Scarlet Crusade and Argent Dawn podcast, which is going up tomorrow, about the story of Lordaeron. And I was like, the story of Lordaeron would actually make such an obscenely good TV show.
Oh,
like
yeah.
the war as I think Jared coined War of the Plaguelands, which is the period of time between the fall of Lordaeron as Arthas regipatricided. Not sure how you connect those two. He regipatricided, and then the whole place went to hell. And then we show up in World of Warcraft, and it's the Plaguelands and the Undercity and the Scarlet Monastery and stuff. That period of time was crazy good.
Oh, yeah.
Actually, so, like, unbelievably dramatic.
It's got to get it. It's got to make it into some form of media.
Yeah, it was like, well, it did in Ashbringer, the comic, but it was like a TV version of that would be crazy good.
Imagine like a world where the world revamp is happening, and then they're able to do that sort of thing. Because the only bits of Azeroth that people give, like if there's a WoW TV show and it's set in the Shadowlands. God, I can't believe I even said those words. Like, that's the thing, it's just so inherently goofy. Like, it's got to be those core zones from Classic if there ever is going to be, like, WoW, kind of like mass media that could live on somewhere like Netflix. And if they were to bring World of Warcraft a little bit more home with some sort of world revamp, you could see all those things kind of like working together quite well. And funny enough, they did try to do that with Warlords of Draenor in the Warcraft movie. I don't think it's confirmed, but there was certainly talk of those having a bit of a tie-in.
They definitely tried to do that in the thematic ways. It's like, look, the orcs are cool, like the orcs, please. And
in fairness, Toby Kebbels, I think that's his name. Yeah, no, that's his name. He did a really good job, Sturatan.
Yeah.
Man, that movie Gul'dan was really good.
Was
all that fucking the big suck.
Yeah.
Big suck was gnarly.
See, Ikaria, that's the good part of this, right? The issue of Warcraft TV is that most WoW races are too expensive to have on screen for too long. But you know what races aren't expensive to have on? Well, they're expensive enough, but not as expensive as other races. Humans. And
HBO can do plenty of zombies.
What was the whole point of Lordaeron? It was literally half of them were going, don't bring any other races into this. Why? We're not racist, just don't like them. with a Bendis and Balnazar taking side on Dotherhands.
Stuff. So wait, because it's Lordaeron, there's canonically people with British accents up there.
Yeah.
We can go full north.
Yeah, so you can go you can go full north there.
Oh, Garithos! Right, who's going to be cast as Garithos?
No.
Oh, that was a really good snipe.
Yeah, it was.
And with that, reputation with Taliesin earned back.
Absolutely. So
fantastic.
Yeah, there's so much stuff there because we describe it in the podcast as a like zombie apocalypse shows are usually about small groups of people, right? But this feels a lot more Mad Max because it's about like societal structures forming after a collapse. So like a Walking Dead Mad Max stuff, like a Mad Max kind of TV show, would actually go super, super well, I think. And I'm just like, yeah, I was just thinking about like the future of what they could do with that is kind of profound. If they have people who are interested in the old side of it. Because there's even like mentioning there of like maybe he's working on Classic Plus stuff. Maybe that's what Metzen's doing. Because that would make sense to go, well, what's the other thing there? So it is just generally a little bit exciting if you're happy to dip into the copium tank, basically. That's what I think it feels like. Scarlet Crusade season, yeah.
Thank you for reminding me of the line, "Every planet's got a north" from Chris Eccleston's Doctor. Oh dear. So
it's not even really a strong way to end this. It's literally just cool stuff happening.
I think that Ian and Chris Metzen are two totally different functions within Warcraft. And I think the person who Metzen would maybe, like, obviously he'd be working closely with Ian because at the end of the day, the buck stops with Ian when it comes, like, he's the game director, right? He is the captain. In terms of a lot of lore things, though, it's Steve. And, Steve has got, like, I would say more of an eye for the detail. It's that sort of thing. I think a lot of the mistakes of like some of the WoW lore recently, it maybe comes from being like a lot of interest in the detail and the esoteric things, like I imagine with like esoteric mysticism, there's probably a lot of my YouTube recommendations that are similar to to Steve's, right? But I think like WoW, it's talking about the fractals and hey, I can sit down and look at what Alfarim is saying and have fun with that, but evidently not everybody can. I feel like Chris would be like, what the fuck? What's a fractal? Beer, motorcycles, Azeroth choppers. That's a little bit mean to Chris. I don't mean it that way. But I feel like there could be this balance of big picture, cool things, and then details and lore. And it's like, if those things are married together, then maybe that ends up being a strong creative partnership. That's kind of got balance, where people are kind of there to support each other's strengths and weaknesses.
Yeah, this is where I think there's almost a difference or almost a return to how World of Warcraft used to be written, or used to be like put together as a game, where clearly the big stuff was kind of disconnected from the small stuff, but it all fed in. And that was because the big stuff was pretty easy to just write a load of other stuff around that kind of thematically matched. In Classic, where Classic didn't really have a big, major, massive plot line that everyone super followed closely. But now you're getting into the world where the narrative design of the video game is very on its own track, and then all of the detail filled in is kind of dancing around it. And this is where I'm actually going to take another tangent. So this is the most spaghetti ass stream I think we've ever done, because the Night Elf Heritage Quest, I'll talk about it at length later on, I won't go too deep into it now, but it basically was neutered by the narrative design of 10.2. You can tell, because 10.2 is all about the Night Elves and how they feel, and their like the Druids of the Flame, and how they feel about losing their mortality, how some of them feel about Teldrassil, all that stuff, and kind of like the getting into the characters who feel different ways about stuff, and the detail's really good there. But then the Heritage Quest was like, here's a couple of characters, and it's some good character stuff, but it's also a little bit of like empty platitudes, because they can't show any major change, because the major change is happening in the narrative design. Whereas with someone who's more kind of creative vibe oriented and less cosmic detail oriented, you would imagine you get to go someone at the big vision. Someone goes, right, it's time to disseminate the vision. What's the vision? Well, the thing is, this race is really sad. Write a load of sad people. Or there's X and they're like this and this and this, and they're fighting Y who are like this and this and this. You don't need like really super tight guidance to bring that on the next one down. You don't need to like babysit people who are going to write a story in that world, which is where you think World of Warcraft's narrative design does need to have a main story now, because you expect that, but it also needs to feel a bit more like a source book, that all the quest designers kind of fun within. And that's what it used to be. And that's why when you go in, Metzen went off to War Chief, he made Sourcebook.
Yeah.
And you're like, well, what's the part that they clearly wanted to do, Sourcebook? And then people can like creatively freestyle within that without having issues. But there's a little bit of the, just a little bit of that inability to freestyle kicked the narrative design of BFA and Shadowlands in the balls. And there was even something I pointed out in Zereth Mortis where all of the freestyling within Zereth Mortis was pretty good. It's just that they were told, right, here's the arena you're allowed to play in. Here's like the playground. Here's the creative space you're allowed. And they did a fine job within it. But everyone looked at that space and went, I don't want anything in that space, even if it's good. So like designing the space a bit better for narrative actual fun within seems to be a little bit more like what could possibly be the case with a creative vision that's more along those lines. I think.
I agree.
Mm-hmm.
The Sourcebook analogies, I think, perfect.
Wow, it's a Sourcebook. That's why the Warcraft RPG is really cool, by the way.
Yeah, and it's funny, you even look at, say, the Eye of Ysera that they've been, that Anne was talking about in the stream. Eye of Ysera, I believe, I don't even know if it's been mentioned in game, but it's been mentioned in Storm Rage and in the Sourcebook. When all the pirate talk was coming out, people were talking about, again, Plunder Isle / Hiji, and the setup with the Bloodsail there. Right, with this like human supremacist Lordaeron ex-noble.
Druk Falrevere.
There we go, who I pronounced incorrectly in the video.
Something, you really butchered that. Like you were like Felrond or something. And they're like, how'd you even get that? Like, how'd you even get that?
Hey, man, I was getting a coffee earlier, and because I had a laptop, someone asked me like, how do you spell counselor? So I Google it. She's like, oh, you see, I'm dyslexic. And I'm like, yeah, fucking, I know, me too. It's hell.
Interesting.
Yeah. It's great. See, the word comes in the time. Right, so Ron Burgundy. I don't even like that movie, but people remember the teleprompter thing. He'll say anything on the teleprompter. Now, what if Ron Burgundy has the dyslexia? Now the problem is, he'll say anything on the teleprompter. However, he cannot see and process the words correctly, and therefore they sometimes come out like complete gobbledygook. That is, that is the plight. So, we've talked about that.